So I've actually been consuming art content for many years, barely picking up the pencil myself. And I think a part of it was I always felt like art was something that I couldn't really do. It's like you look online and you see an illustration, right? And you can kind of identify the things that are good about it. And depending on the level, maybe you can even identify some areas that artist needs to improve. But when you actually get to the canvas, or rather, when I actually got to the canvas, I would do lines or something. I would make some kind of crude drawing, and it would seem like, even though I would understand some part of the techniques that artists would use to make something that's, a work of art, I would never really commit to it. I would kind of assume that I can't draw characters because, my hand is shaky when I'm using the drawing tablet. And a lot of art is you have the line art, and then you color it in, and then you shade it, and things like that. And because, my hand was very shaky, I always thought, well, I can't really make a defined portrait of a character. So if I can't do that, then maybe it's I can't even make a complete artwork. Just imagine, go on Twitter and you see artists with here's this character I really like, I drew them in my style. You look at that and it's wow, they've completely added something to the character. There's a pull to it, and that pull is their imagination tied with, whatever it is, their skill, something like that. And then, if I try to draw a character, I'm kind of here with the basics, with my shaky lines. So for a long time, I would kind of look at that, and that would be in the back of my mind, kind of telling me that, oh, this isn't actually something that you can do if you just be consistent and put in the effort over and over and over, And so I would kind of put in half efforts. I would look online, I would see what artists are doing, and then I spend 30 minutes copying that or something like that. Just a small 30 minutes to see if this is worth it, if it pays off. And it's I end up with something that looks pretty decent. And I recognize that. But then, the part of me that's trying to do it halfway kind of realizes this isn't enough to get to that level ever. Being completely honest, if you just do 30 minutes, complete 30 minutes pieces, something that you can complete from beginning to end in only 30 minutes, yes, you will improve, but you'll never gain the kind of endurance or, kind of grand scheme, grand patience and attention to quality that it takes for these artists who put hours and hours into completed, polished, beautiful works. So, even though I was putting in effort here and there, it wasn't full effort. And I don't mean full effort as in really tense and you're gripping and pushing yourself and pushing through the brain fog or anything like that. No, what I mean by full effort is just committing to the fact that you have a goal and you want to go towards that goal. You want to make the progress towards that goal to the best of your ability with what limited skills you do have. And now I think with these thumbnails, I'm finally starting to do that. But I can probably go even, if I'm being completely real, you and me, we're both human beings. We know this. I can go further than this if I set the goal to go further than this. I can complete these thumbnails and it's real art, It's not the best thing in the world, but it is real art. There's there's a concept to the idea of it. There's a sketch, I sketch it out, I thumbnail it out, I plan it, I change things to improve, the final impact of the result. And then I really, use all of the knowledge I have and all the experience I have in order to actually finish it. To do all the things that I know can exist in an artwork and then put it all into the finished project. And then I actually have something where it's I can look at this and be yo, I kind of need to work on the hands a little bit. What's this going on here? There's a big piece of ham where the hand is supposed to be. And the hair is kind of like, I mean, it looks cool, but it's like it's glossy, but it's like I don't want to do this forever. I mean, like I love the style personally, and like that's kind of why I gravitate towards it, but I want to do it better than this. I don't want to be capped at this forever. So maybe let's work on that. And the only reason I'm encountering this is because, it's not as small as saying, oh, I'm doing it for myself for the first time, so now I'm figuring it out. No, it's a little bit more than that. It's like, okay, I'm actually committing to it. I'm actually putting in the effort. I'm actually saying, yo, instead of just like joking around completely and doing what I can do in like 30 minutes and maybe push an hour if I'm having fun, what can I do if I just commit to the goal here? And because it's that specifically goal-minded effort, the intention to start something and just go for it, to just do it, I'm actually finding points of feedback. And I think a lot of times there are kind of things that we want for ourselves. So it's like, maybe you're out of shape and you want to get in shape. And then you think, okay, well, what can I do to get in shape? Exercise, diet, all of that. Do I want to be strong? If you want to be strong, you gotta lift weights or do some kind of resistance work. If you kind of want to be more fit and athletic, you have to do endurance work. And if you want to be healthy or, not seem completely winded when you're doing basic things, you have to do some cardio work, right? And then it's like, what level do you really want to go to? I think if we're being completely honest, we'd want to go to the level where you can kind of do any movement you want for as long as you want without it affecting you at all. And I think I was thinking about how people in the military do things, and it's like it's on the outside we don't have a good concept of what it really is because we're not experiencing it. We can only like look it up and see what's going on and things like that. And you imagine, long runs with weights on you and things like that. But whatever you imagine, it's like even harder on the inside. And it's kind of like a testament to human ability. And furthermore, it's like, this is the amount that you can really improve if you do put in the effort. So then it's like, 3 days ago is a complete night and day shift where it's like I went from feeling like a 10-minute run is or what did I say? I said something like I did a run where it was more walking with like breaks of running, right? But then I like thought about that and it was a complete flip. When when you do something that's so hard that you can't keep it up anymore, of course you're going to fizzle out. Like that's the end of it. You can't do more than your endurance is capable of. But the real hard thing, the real effort, the real, difficult solution to the problem that I think people are too impatient to kind of try it out is that when you decrease the intensity to the point where it's just uncomfortable and then you keep doing it for a long repeated amount of time, never accessing that level where you start to give in and start to give up, then it becomes really difficult. Then you actually start to change, I think. And it reminds me, 10 years ago when I was in boxing, one of the things the coach said was, okay, to practice every single day, you do 20 minutes of a run, whatever pace you can manage, no matter how slow it is. And that's very, very real. I mean, it's kind of the same thing that when you look online and research a little bit and look at the science of it, the best way to improve your cardio is to run at a pace where you can still comfortably have conversation. It's just it's the time, the doing it like over and over and over and just being uncomfortable the entire time and kind of riding it out. That's the hard part. That's the part that grows you. So I went from doing this ridiculous, well, it was better than nothing for sure. And before that, I was doing nothing. But I went from this ridiculous kind of, walk with breaks of running into a more focused, okay, you know what? Let's just take a slow jog, something that I can keep doing. And then, just like a switch, day 1, 20-minute jog. Day 2, 30-minute jog, but then I was like, yo, you know what? It would be kind of sick if I just went to the hour. So then I did like 45 minutes jog or something like that, and I was completely sweating afterwards. And, I've got this belly on me, and sometimes during the jog, I'd feel like, holy moly, if I keep going, I might throw up or something. But then it's like, at those times, it's just take it a little easier, keep going, whatever the smallest sustainable pace is. And that is real effort. Just because when you're at your maximum, it feels like a small thing doesn't mean it's not effort. It is effort. It's the most important kind of effort. It's the kind that, doing it and doing it and doing it will actually take you somewhere. And I guess in general, that's all I wanted to make this video about, is that intentionally just cap yourself out at a small, sustainable pace. Don't have an ego, Don't pretend like just because, and I'm using myself as an example here, don't pretend that just because you've watched art videos and researched for 5 years that the first time you're going to be actually consistently making things, you're going to be any good. No. But what you can do is, with that limited knowledge that you do have, do what you can. Put in the effort. Access some of those techniques from your brain. Apply it, self-critique a little bit, but just keep the brush moving and don't stop.